That's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind.
It's been 50 years since Neil Armstrong took those historic first steps on the moon. We'll take a look back and peer into the future of space exploration. Hello, I'm Anand Naidu, and this is The Heat. May 25th, 1961, US President John F. Kennedy first proposes landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth by the end of the decade. Fast forward 8 years later, July 20th, 1969, the world collectively holds its breath as Apollo 11's lunar module makes a slow descent to the lunar surface. CGTN's John Zarrella picks up the story.
5, 4. 50 years ago, a Saturn V rocket, the most powerful, the most massive the world had ever seen, lifted off from Florida's Kennedy Space Center. Apollo 11 was on its way to the moon. The men who would make history sat inside a tiny spacecraft atop the Saturn V. 4 days later, as Command Module pilot Michael Collins circled the moon, Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin landed on it.
Well, when it got down to 30 seconds, we're still about 10 feet above the ground. We got it made now.
1.5, 30 seconds.
Really, the most important part of that mission was landing. And when we landed, and I said, contact light, engine stop, and a few other things, and then I patted Neil on the shoulder.
It appeared to us when you're doing the P-52 maneuvering.
Charlie Duke, who himself would later walk on the moon, was in Houston's mission control.
And so we knew they were on the ground, hopefully right side up.
Then quiet, a pause, until Armstrong's now historic words.
Tranquility Base here. The Eagle has landed.
I was so excited when my response came out first, Roger twang, and I knew that wasn't right. So I corrected it in the mid-word, tranquility, we copy you on the ground.
Roger, tranquility. We copy you on the ground. You got a bunch of guys about to turn blue. We're breathing again. Thanks a lot.
Between July of 1969 and December of 1972, 12 men left their boot prints on the lunar surface. Then it was over, finished. The last 3 scheduled missions canceled. Al Warden was Apollo 15 command module pilot.
My personal opinion, I think we had 6 successful landings, and we're worried something could happen. And we could have 100 successful landings and one where we lost a crew, and that would be the only thing that people would remember.
The renewed interest in the moon, and to a larger extent just flying in space, has become infectious. India is planning to put 3 people in orbit in 2022. Russia wants to build a new rocket to send cosmonauts to the moon by 2028. The Japanese space agency is teaming up with Toyota to build a moon rover. The United Arab Emirates is sending a small probe to Mars next year. China is moving steadily to land humans on the moon by the end of the decade. The U.S. space agency, NASA, plans to land astronauts, including the first woman, on the moon by 2024.
Okay, Neil, we can see you coming down the ladder now.
Neil Armstrong's one small step 50 years ago, in large part, set the stage for where we are today and where space travel will take us tomorrow.